Sai Ram, my humble pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet and Sai Rams to all my loving brothers and sisters. Welcome to Life is a Sacrifice, Offer It. Sacrifice can actually be a very rewarding and fulfilling sadhana if only we would let it. The problem is that most people will shirk away from the word sacrifice because they liken it to something that they have to give up and they may not want to. But if you approach sacrifice as an act of giving up something that's very valuable to you in order to gain something even more valuable, then sacrifice takes on a whole new dimension. And if you go one step further and offer that sacrifice to Bhagwan, then that in itself becomes a spiritual act. These are the lessons that I have learned with all the sacrifices I have had to make in life. You see, many years ago, Bhagwan demanded sacrifices of me. Yes, demanded, because of my own accord, I would never have made those sacrifices. Bhagwan orchestrated those sacrifices because he deemed it necessary for me to be able to gain something far more valuable, Bhagwan himself. How can I complain if life is full of sacrifices? So I go back to the year 1981, right at the start of the year. Bhagwan made me sacrifice my greatest desire of having children. Not only did I lose my one-day-old baby girl, I was also told that I cannot have any more children. Totally devastating, as you can imagine. But to cut a long story short, a few months later, I went to India to my in-laws. And there, my aunt, who for years had been insisting I accompany her to meet this God man, started again. This time, I relented. I went with her and I demanded and got children. Not just a couple more as I wanted, but a whole lot more. Over the next few years, Bhagwan was slowly grooming me to become a Bal Vikas teacher, an SSE teacher. And as you know, when you become a Bal Vikas guru, you kind of adopt the children. And no matter how old they become, you always refer to them as my children. So what is it of greatest value that I got from this sacrifice? As I taught the kids to learn to love God and fear sin, I myself was getting to know a very loving and giving God. And as I read his life stories and related them to the children and sang bhajans with them, I learned to know Bhagwan a little bit more and to love him a little bit more. Bhagwan made his grand entry into my life with this sacrifice. I'd like to pause to remind myself of a quote by Bhagwan where he says, "I give you what you want so that you may one day want what I have come to give." True to his word, having satisfied my desire for children, he now demanded another sacrifice. He orchestrated that I sacrifice my Instagram picture-perfect life of comfort, of luxury, of an abundance of just about everything. The only thing I fell short of was Bhagwan in my life, and so he thought it was necessary for me to make a few sacrifices so that there was space for him. So what legacy did I inherit from this unsolicited sacrifice? Initially, it was a lot of fear of what is going to happen with us, with almost nothing with us. But Bhagwan consoled me, and suddenly, from all directions, I kept getting this quote, and I think you can understand what that quote is. Why fear when I am here? And with that quote, I lived life. And as each difficult day passed, the fear changed to faith. Soon after, I picked up my sister's copy of the Holy Gita, and for some reason, my hand paused on the page where Krishna says, "This too shall come to pass." At the end of the year, I was given a calendar, and on the calendar was a quote by Bhagwan, which read, "Never, not even for a moment, have I worried about anything. What is the reason? All this is temporary. All are just passing clouds. Why worry at all? Passing clouds, now you see them, now you don't." Over the years, these three assurances, why fear when I am here? This too shall come to pass, and passing clouds have become my pillars of strength. A building cannot stand on 3 pillars, and I built the 4th pillar with my faith in Bhagwan. And when I had to sacrifice my picture-perfect, imperfect life, I learned to let go and let God. And believe me, He takes over beautifully. I now have an abundance of Swami in my life. Some sacrifices that happen in your life can make or break you, but sacrifices orchestrated by Bhagwan can change your DNA. Initially, they hurt you physically, but they mold you into a much better version of your own self. And when Swami brings you into the Sai family, he makes you realize that sacrifice is at play at every step, whether consciously or thoughtlessly. Without a second thought, we are willing to give up our time, our efforts, our energy into doing things dedicated to Him. But when it comes to sacrificing our own self, our thoughts, our words, our emotions, hesitation seeps in. But think of all that we stand to gain. When we handle emotions calmly, without anger or frustration, we learn to adopt the habit of humility. When we speak calmly and lovingly with others, we learn to sacrifice our own arrogance and even squabbles that may take place. Transformation starts here. I am slowly beginning to understand that Bhagwan knows that I am capable of much more sacrifice than even I thought possible. In spite of all His reassurances that He is here to stay in my life, I will often fall into the ditch called why me. It is at these times that I pick myself up with faith in Him and in His words and assure myself that He has better plans for me. I do not know what they are, but what I do know is that one day, instead of saying, why me, I will say, thank you, Swami, for choosing me. Stay safe, be blessed, be happy. Jai Sai Ram.